I got to be honest, usually when I start the show, I am full of energy and enthusiasm. Um, but I got to be honest, today I am not well. Um, the news that came out early this morning that we lost the late, great Tony Saladino at the age of 89 years old. Um, an incredible article already written by our good pal Jarrett Guthrie from 813preps.com. I implore everybody out there to go read that. An article that discusses his life. And, we're going to talk about a lot of different things on the program today. We'll have Adam Sylvan joining us from Pewter Report at 12:30 to talk about Jalen McMillan and all things Buccaneers. We'll chat with the voice of USF Athletics. Jim Lauk is going to join us at 1 o'clock. But we're going to spend the first half hour of the show today on remembering the late, great Tony Saladino. Awfully tough. This is a man who was such a fantastic example of what it meant to be a father and a husband and a friend and a man and a person that represented our city. We could all be so lucky to have a legacy that Tony left here on our community. And this is why I'm grateful to have this podcast, is to be able to have this platform, to be able to discuss his life, right? This isn't a radio show where we're going to talk about Jalen McMillan and him being out. And obviously I understand it's important for the masses, but we're Tampa first and foremost right here on this show. I just remember the first time ever going to the Saladino tournament as a member of Freedom High School and going to Brandon High and just looking at the pageantry of it all and how many people were there and volunteering, and it was amazing. The buzz was palpable. And I remember the little Hall of Fame recognizing all of the pro players that played in the Saladino tournament over the years. Everybody from the Sheffields and Tino Martinez and Fred McGriffs and all the way to the Kyle Tuckers, Lance McCullers of the world. And then I remember meeting Tony and Bertha very early on and how great they were and how warm and welcoming and how you felt part of the family. And family meant everything to Tony. Married to Bertha for 52 years. And just getting to know the Saladino family and getting as close with them over the last couple of just the last decade or so. I'm always incredibly grateful for how they've treated me. Today's a tough day in Tampa because, again, you want to talk about a guy like Tony Saladino who gave everything to this community. The Tony Saladino Award given to the best player in Hillsborough County, the Saladino tournament that is the greatest spring break baseball tournament in the entire country. And just how incredibly giving and loving Tony and Bertha were. I can't say enough nice things about him. I mean, it's not my loss, and everybody, I post these things on social media, and it's not my loss. It's our loss. It's our community's loss. Again, Tony was the best of us. And you can only hope to leave a legacy as impactful as his. I mean, he passed away from heart failure at the age of 89, but his heart didn't fail at all. I mean, it was the driving force that made a man who was barely 5 feet tall an absolute giant in our community. And over the years, just being around him, every single time you would go and chat with Tony Saladino, you walked away and you felt like you were a better person. It was very similar to, talking to a Leroy Selman or a Tony Dungy. When you walked away, you're like, man, what? How lucky am I to be able to spend time with him? Longtime educator in Hillsborough County. This is a guy that baseball meant the world to him. And I remember going to his house, and it was like a museum in there where there was like a picture of Orestes Estrada next to a picture of like George Bush, and just baseballs and just history everywhere. A mini Cooperstown at his house, with a baseball field in the front yard. And the last time I saw Tony was about a month ago in the hospital there at Tampa General, and I wanted to see him over the last couple of weeks, but as you guys know here on the show, I haven't been feeling all that well, and still kind of battling this cough, and I didn't really want to go knowing that his health was compromised, and I didn't want to make things worse. But I remember the last time I saw Tony, and I was in the hospital with him, and the nurse walked in, and the nurse said, "Oh, is this your friend?" And Tony said, "Great friend." Great friend. That was Tony for you. I mean, he was that guy. He wanted to make sure that you felt special, that you felt included. I also remember one time, because when you were at University of Tampa, you'd go see him with his grandson Nico, back-to-back national champions for our Tampa Spartans. Every single time you would go to the birdcage there, you would make sure, or at least I would, you got to go, go see the Don. You go see the Godfather. And he would always sit in the same spot there on the third base side. And, you walk past a bunch of people, and every single time, I don't care, I would I would blow past people that I've known for years just because I had to go say hi to Tony. That was the first thing that I had to do, as the priority every single time. And I remember this was a couple years ago, and I walked over there, and I walked up to him, and this was during one of the times where Tony wasn't doing too well. And I went up and I shook his hand and I gave him a hug. And he said, "Hey, Jay, great to see you." And his son Tiger came up to me afterwards and said, "Dad's not really doing too well." And the first time that he said anything all day was when you came up and said hello. Tony and I were able to, we just shared a bond. Every single time that we were in the vicinity, we knew that it was going to be a 5, 10, 15, 20-minute conversation. And I always wanted to know, like, who he admired, who are the players that he loved watching. And he had so much love for Wade Boggs and Tony and Tino Martinez and Fred McGriff. And, him being a Jefferson alum, I know those Jefferson guys meant the world to him. And he always told me how important that Pop Cuesta and Frank Permui and Coach Jim Macaluso and Coach John Crumley and everybody, how important they were to him, because he loved baseball and he loved Tampa. And we love Tony. We always will. Again, if you missed the fantastic article written by my pal Jarrett Guthrie from 813preps.com, please go check it out. It's incredibly well done. Jarrett Guthrie has done so much for high school baseball in our Tampa Bay area. He and Tony had that in common, incredibly. It starts off with life is a bunt, a sacrifice. The Saladino Baseball Tournament, which played its 43rd installment in March, it's something special to our area. And Tony was a guy that impacted so many people. And I remember being at the World Series the last 2 years in Cary, North Carolina, where UT was able to win. And, especially this year with the dramatic comebacks. And if you missed it, I posted on my social media videos of Nico, his grandson, getting all these different hits. And, I put the camera on Tony, and just so emotional, and to see all the different people, and his daughter Cheryl and seeing Julie Urso, Joe's wife, and just everybody celebrating with him and him just to tears. It meant the world to him. And to be able to sit there last year and this year after the win at the celebration at the hotel and just being able to sit there with him and to be able to talk to him. And tough, man. Today's a tough day. We lost one of the greatest people to ever live in Tampa. That's not hyperbole. It's not just because him. It's not just because of what, it's the legacy. It's that name, the Saladino name, that is going to ring throughout history. It doesn't get more Tampa than Saladino. Joe Urso and Sammy Militello and Jose Jimenez and the whole crew over there at UT and what they were able to do this past year. I was a part of the ring ceremony, and they gave Tony a ring for their 9th championship. They now have 10. But seeing Sammy walk over to Tony and to give him that ring and how much it meant to Tony, it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. The way that Joe and the whole crew made Tony feel like part of the team and part of the family. And not like they made him feel. He was. And speaking of family, this year, during the Saladino tournament final between Bloomingdale and Strawberry Crest, my mom and dad were in town. So we went over there and went to the University of Tampa, and I brought him over and I introduced my mom and dad to Tony Saladino, and he was so happy to meet them. He wasn't in his customary spot in the stands. He was actually sitting in a chair. And he met my mom and dad, and he stood up and he showed my mom and dad his championship ring. He was so proud of it. Top of it popped open, and he said, "You know what I keep in there?" My mom and dad said, "What?" He goes, "My Viagra." So you did, like, it was, and it wasn't crass. It wasn't like, he wasn't being rude or anything like that. My mom and dad thought it was the funniest thing, and it was hilarious. And he was so proud of himself because of that joke, and it was funny as hell. But he was so happy to meet them. After that day, every single time I saw Tony Saladino, he asked about my mom and dad. Every time. Baseball field, ceremonies, just seeing him at the celebration over there at Josephine's in Brandon on 60, and even in the hospital a month ago. The first thing he would always ask was, "How is mom and dad?" The word that keeps coming up in my mind when I'm thinking about Tony Saladino is legacy, legend, and legacy. You can have all the money in the world, but you can't take it with you when you leave this earth. All you can really hope for is that what you did while you were here left an indelible mark on the people around you so that you'll be remembered for as long as possible. I don't know if I've ever met somebody. I don't know if I've ever been around somebody that I consider a friend, a great friend, that impacted more people in a positive way than Tony Saladino. I mean, people walked up to that guy like he was the freaking Pope. They would bend the knee. They would kiss the ring. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't one of them. I want you to watch some of those videos that I posted on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, and just watch some of those videos and to see how happy he was and see how happy everybody was around him. I Our last time speaking, he spoke to me about how his dad passed away at a young age at the bowling alley. Tony was there. Heart attack. I think it was 35 or 45. So the fact that Tony lived to 89 years old, he told me, Jay, I didn't think I'd live this long. And he did. And he lived. He lived his life. And the impact that he's had on others. I mean, just looking at the outpouring of love and emotion on social media, there's so much bullshit on social media nowadays. Everything is so damn negative, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just draining. And then you see today, and you see, everybody from Wade Boggs to, I'm looking at the current coach at Jefferson High School, Spencer Nunez, and everybody in between. And I spoke to Jarrett Guthrie, my pal again from A13preps.com. I called him this morning knowing that he already knew. And he said something very poignant to me, which was just another example of make sure you tell people that you love them while they're still here. I feel terrible that I've not felt well enough to be able to see him the last couple of weeks. I've tried to check in as often as possible with his son Tiger. But I'm very glad that I went to the hospital about a month ago to see him and be able to share that time with him. He was trying to feed me, eat this, eat this. I'm like, dude, you have to eat. I say this a lot, and I'll continue to say it on a day like today. You have to. It was like, life is short. It's here and gone before you know it. And all we have is the memories of the loved ones that we've shared those moments with. So if you're estranged or you don't think you can make a phone call because of ill will or because of bad blood, get rid of that shit, man. Get rid of that. You never know. You never know. And we knew that Tony's health wasn't great, and this wasn't necessarily a surprise. Doesn't make it hurt any less. The impact is going to be felt for a very, very long time. It's never going to stop. It's never going to be forgotten. That's a name that's going to live in history, not just in baseball in this area, but just in Tampa as a whole. I keep going back to the way he would treat people and how excited he was to see me and see my friends and family and to see all the people out there. And, 6 months ago or so when the Italian national baseball team was here and they had the big announcement with UT and Mike Piazza and Tino Martinez were there. And I showed up a little late. And when I showed up a little late, I walked in and they said, hey, we got a special seat for you at this table. Is it okay if you sit here? And at that table was my good pal Paul Russo, Sammy Militello, Pop Cuesta, Jimmy Macaluso, and Tony Saladino. It's the best seat in the house. I remember how much I really like fell in love with the Saladino tournament over the years. And even after I was coaching and got into broadcasting, Paul and I actually broadcast the game between Alonso and Steinbrenner in the championship game. And I just remember being on the third base side and interviewing after the game Londi Faedo from Alonso, spending time with Londi over the years, eating some food between games. And it was the first tournament since Bertha had passed. I learned something as a broadcaster the other day. I felt so bad because Londi was heated. They lost in the finals. And I asked him about, like, what does this mean? First tournament since Bertha passed away. And he was so conflicted because he was so, like, pissed off that they lost. And then I asked him that question. And he was like, he couldn't even be pissed anymore. He's like, damn, I put him in such a bad spot. And I'm sorry, Londi. I love you, buddy. Because he has so much love for the Saladino family. We all do. We always will. We put so much stock into what we have, like tangible things, money, cars, clothing, our house, and all that stuff. You can't take that with you. People aren't going to remember that stuff. They're going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to remember like what you did to help your friends and your family and your community. A lasting impact, a lasting legacy. Who's done that better than Tony Saladino here in Tampa? And how ironic, too. One of the things that we were talking about the last time we spoke was Al Lopez, Hall of Famer, Tampa guy through and through, and how he wishes that more teachers and more coaches and more people in the Bay Area would show love to Al Lopez. And he spoke to me about how former major leaguers, including like Ted Williams, that he communicated with Ted Williams about Al Lopez and how important it was and how he was the man and how everybody looked up to him. And he was just the model citizen for our area and how he hopes his legacy never perishes. And it's ironic because tomorrow is actually Al Lopez's birthday. The great Tony Saladino. Was hoping he would get to 90. That was the joke that we were having. You look okay. The last time I saw him, he looked okay. And he's sitting there in a hospital gown, eating this food from Josephine's. Our good buddy Jay Fox made sure that he didn't go hungry. Yeah, man. Not an easy day. Not an easy day here in Tampa Bay. And if you're one of those people that has ever crossed paths with him, you totally understand what I'm getting at, what I'm talking about. Because even though, again, he was like a small guy, I mean, these kids nowadays talk about aura. This dude, it was bursting out of his fingertips, his aura, his greatness, his generosity, his love for his family, and just we put so much stock into our heroes and our idols being professional athletes and movie stars and musicians. I think about what I would talk about today on this show if this didn't happen. We act like an injury to a player that's going to be okay. Division realignment, upcoming football games, like how important that is. But in the grand scheme of it, is it? I've interviewed every single high-profile athlete here in Tampa in the last 10 years, and all that shit pales in comparison to getting to know and to being around a guy like Tony Saladino. Seeing the emotion on his face when Nico had 9,575 hits in the World Series this year. Being around the family, the extended family. That's way more important than the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup or the Bucks winning the Super Bowl or going to a WrestleMania or national championship game. It's not even close. So don't forget, man, it's not the money, it's not the cars, it's the people. It's the people. And to have a guy like Tony Saladino, and for him, again, in the hospital room last month. Is that a friend? Great friend. That's what he was. Great friend, great father, great husband, grandfather, baseball fan. He will always be Tampa. Not Tampa baseball. He'll be Tampa. This place meant everything to him. This dude always wore jeans. 99 degrees outside. I'm like, you're nuts, dude. I got to do it. Shirt tucked in. Look like $1 million. Big old ring. Yeah, man. We lost an absolute giant in our community today. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Life is short. Tell your loved ones that you love them, you miss them. Spend as much time as humanly possible with them. Spend that extra $200 to go on the trip, to go to a family reunion. Drive that extra 30 minutes to make that ballet recital or Little League game. Wake up early, stay late. Those are the moments that are going to live with you forever. It's not the money. It's not the phones. It's not the laptops. It's not the video games. It's not the shoes. It's not the ties and the suits. That's not the shit you're going to be thinking about at the end. You're going to think about your family. You're going to think about your friends. You're going to think about the moments that you were able to share with your loved ones. So again, follow me on all social media platforms. Once we hear information about any of the services or celebrations of life, we'll definitely pass that on to you guys. But again, we lose the great Tony Saladino this morning at 89 years young, and we should all try to live our lives like Tony and leave a legacy that will last forever.